Hey there, everybody. My name is Micah Curtis.
And I'm Alex Baldwin, also known as The Hatman.
And welcome back to the Overflow. Sorry that it's a little bit late this week. I have had one hell of a week, as you can tell by my ragged appearance. And the fact that I haven't even shaved in like 4 days. So, I'm kind of worn out. Rather quickly in this new diet of mine, I got what's called the keto flu really quickly, which I'm told is a good sign, but it's kind of miserable. I'm having very bad sugar cravings, and like 1 minute I'll be not hungry at all, and then all of a sudden I'll want to eat like half the room, and it's this whole giving up carbs thing is not easy. So, but I'm gonna stick with it. You know, I've been drenched in sweat before. It's nothing I'm not used to. Alright. But still, we shall soldier on. Hatman,
Still we carry on.
Absolutely. Hatman, what should we start with? Politics or entertainment?
Well, let's see. Which one has more questions?
Well, 2, 3, 4, 5. 1, 2, 3, 4. Neither. They're 5 apiece.
Wow. Okay. Let's go for politics this time. Why not? I don't know. I'm thinking of like rolling a die in my head, but I kind of can't. Kind of difficult to do that with your brain. But let's go politics. Why not?
All right, sounds good. Well, let's get started. Autist Whisperer wants to know thoughts on the Joy Reid controversy. Is it a good example of progressive hypocrisy? I would definitely say yes.
Yeah, absolutely. I actually think it's kind of hilarious that she felt the need to claim that she was hacked.
Yeah.
As opposed to just saying, look, I wrote that a long time ago. My views have since changed. I apologize for what I said. It was wrong then. It's wrong now. Whatever.
The whole Cenk Uygur thing.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, like that's something that I can give Cenk credit for. Actually, that he is willing to acknowledge I guess in his mind the mistaken things that he said. But instead of acknowledging that potential hypocrisy there, she's like, nope, I was hacked. I was hacked, and somebody planted that. Somebody with a bad agenda planted that.
And then afterwards, her confession was a non-confession, saying, "I don't recognize these things. It couldn't have been me. I couldn't have written this." Like, how's that an apology? We know you wrote it.
Nothing.
Yeah, it's so silly.
And on top of that, that was a softball treatment she got too.
Mm-hmm.
She did not get really hammered for that. Like, really, anyone, center or right of center, would have. Like, there'd be, say, Tucker Carlson said something like that.
Mm-hmm.
And they'd call for his head. I mean,
absolutely.
As opposed to, already calling for his head. But
yeah,
no, absolutely. They would be all over him.
But that's just the way it is.
Yeah. There's a different set of rules that they get to play by.
Basically. Again, it's about the collective. As long as you are still adhering to a certain narrative, 9 times out of 10, I mean, you're going to get away scot-free.
Yeah, exactly.
All right. Now we got some questions about Korea. CT117 wanted to know, with the Korean War possibly being over, will Kim Jong-un step down from power and try to reunite with the South? No, I don't think so.
I don't think so either. They would have to be extremely no. There's what's the name of that philosophy that North Korea runs on. The whole supreme leader thing, and like, they control the weather and whatnot. This almost like a cult of personality thing. There's a specific name for it.
I'm actually not sure. I mean, it is communistic, that's the obvious point, but they've taken it to levels of it being an Orwellian nightmare.
Yeah, well, that's the thing. There's a specific name for that, and I can't think of it. Maybe someone in the comments will put it out there for it, because usually, that's what happens anyway. We love you, internet. But yeah, they would basically have to give that up in order for reunification to be even remotely seriously considered.
And that's a lot of power.
Yes, that is.
And the idea that anybody who has literally, in Kim's face, gotten fat on that kind of power is going to give it up?
No.
People who adore being in power rarely ever want to leave the spotlight. Look at Obama, even. And he wasn't even a tyrant, but he liked being in power. He liked having that kind of influence. Hillary Clinton's another good example.
She didn't even have the same sort of power.
Yeah.
And she's drunk on it.
Mm-hmm.
It's like the idea of having it.
It's like an addiction for her.
Yeah.
So,
I mean, like it or not, North Korea is still a dictatorship. And if there's one thing that dictators do not do, it's willingly lay down their power.
Exactly. Now, another question about the war that the Swordsman 100 had was, what are the chances of Trump getting any recognition for ending the war? Well, and this is the thing. You're not going to see a lot of people on the left, from my prediction, acknowledge his role in it at all. They're going to try to ignore him at any cost. I know CNN has tried to. I know MSNBC has tried to. But the truth gets out there.
Mm-hmm.
So I don't think that... I don't even think the Nobel board will acknowledge this because of political bias. Yet they gave Barack Obama one as a promissory note. So...
I've said this on Twitter, and I don't remember if I actually said this on the show this past week, but they would sooner give it to Kim Jong-un before they give it to Donald Trump.
Oh, yeah. They definitely...
If only to spite the man.
Absolutely. And he's probably one of the most hated politicians of all time, despite all the good he's been doing.
Absolutely, yeah.
Okay, the next question comes from Eclectic 1995. He says that here's the House committee has found no collusion between Trump and the Russians. Does this officially disprove and possibly end the Russia collusion? Not yet.
Nope.
They're not going to close that until Mueller is done with his investigation.
Yeah, that's basically it.
Which Mueller is basically dragging on for the sake of dragging it on at this point.
Yeah. Well, honestly, I think even if Mueller finds that there was no collusion between Trump and Russia, they'd want to open it right back up again.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, they are dead set on making sure that, Trump gets impeached for this, or they can draw up articles of impeachment over something little that happened. I mean, now you're hearing talks of that over the Stormy Daniels thing, for God's sake.
Yeah.
I mean, that's preposterous. And similarly, they were dead set on making sure that Hillary Clinton was protected at all costs from any sort of legal repercussions because she was assumed to be the next president. I mean, clearly there's an agenda here.
Oh, absolutely.
And they will not rest until they can enact it. I mean, findings be damned. I mean, you already heard some of the Democrats say that I think actually Comey himself said that the the findings were just politics. To which I respond, then what the hell was the Steele dossier?
Yeah, exactly. It's a ridiculous situation, you know. But this is the game from the Democratic side. Is if they lose, they want to try to revoke that loss as quickly as possible.
Yep.
So
Throw a temper tantrum until they win.
Basically. But that's how progressives do things. I mean, that you will beat them. They'll go home. They'll cry. And instead of like normal people, they take their loss. They move on. They get mad about it, and then they try to find a way to kill you, for better or worse. They're plotting revenge. So.
They don't understand the word no. Basically, they're like a child that's never been told no.
Yeah, for better or worse. There was an example that I liked that Ben Shapiro gave a while ago. You know that speech he had given, like, it's a 2-minute-long speech at UCLA where he basically smacks them down for even considering becoming part of the BDS movement.
Mm.
There's a little girl, or not a little girl, but a young girl who is, like, crying on there, talking about, oh, we failed to help these people, and blah, 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 and blah. And he made an example, and Hatman, I'm echoing for some reason out of your phone there. She gets all emotional, but Shapiro had basically said she's gonna go home, she's gonna cry, and then she's gonna wake up and she's gonna try to find a way to destroy me. And that's basically the long and short of it. Like that's the game they play.
Mm-hmm.
And it goes from like the lowest of the Antifa members to the highest of the highs.
Yeah. Anyone with power over me will tell me what to do, and nobody tells me what to do.
Mm-hmm. All right. Finally, for politics, the freshest slice asks, at what point is armed civil uprising necessary to protect the rights of citizens? And has the UK reached that point? You know, I had honestly thought that, I remember around the time that they banned handguns in the UK, I figured that would have been it. Because what the fuck? But the people of the UK just rolled over and died, for better or worse. And lo and behold, as the civilian population has largely been disarmed over and over again, they continue to see their rights infringed upon. Now, here's the thing. I understand, for you British folks out there, that you have a very different culture than America. You know, I was talking with one of my coworkers, he's a former MP in the Army. We were talking about how Americans are naturally rebellious. You know, rebellion and fighting is a big part of who we are. We're almost Spartan in that manner, in a lot of ways when you think about it. Like, the old school American spirit is based around fighting the bad guy and constant self-improvement. Lately, since I've been doing this diet, I've been trying to get back and motivate myself, and you know, I want to be buff again. You know, I was buff when I was in my 20s. I was a monster. I want to get back to that point. And I've been listening to certain podcasts that talk about uplifting things and talk about motivation and talk about, you know, being strong and things like that. And one I've been listening to is Jocko Willenick's podcast. And he was reading through the biography of Chesty Puller, you know, the famous Marine who basically served in like 2.5 wars, basically. And one thing that Chesty Puller constantly says is that if we go soft as a nation, we will lose this nation. And I think the UK is an example of a nation going soft. You know, and I applaud people who think that the democratic process in their nation could work to reverse this, and I hope it does. But I don't know. It's the thing about having an armed populace is it is a deterrent for tyranny.
Yeah, it holds them in check.
Yeah, and when you willingly give that up, you're basically saying that the government is capable of taking care of you, and I think history has shown over and over again that it is not. If anything, it has the opposite effect. And we had a long rant on that in the last podcast. But
Yeah.
regardless to say, I'm surprised it hasn't happened with Britain already. So we'll have to see what happens there.
I'm not surprised.
Hmm.
I think, and it goes back to what you said, a history sort of thing. I think because Britain doesn't have that sort of mindset, they weren't raised on the ideas of, our founding documents, for example.
Mm.
Like the Declaration of Independence itself explains, the moment when we must rebel, when it becomes our duty. When the government fails the populace, then revolution becomes a necessity.
Mm-hmm.
And they don't have that sort of thing. It's a different culture for them. So I think it's more of a faith in the democratic process there. Whereas, I think at least for us, we acknowledge that, the democratic process is the best way for it. But the idea that we can hold the government in check, by our own arms, but we don't want it to get to that point. That is a last resort.
Yeah.
And at least right now for the UK, that's not possible. Unless you're going to have some sort of raiding of the Bastille or something, but you're not going to get anything like that.
No.
No. You would have to drive several trucks of peace into any armories in order to have a proper revolution there. But no, I think a lot of it has to do with complacency too, that they feel this is for the best, and that's almost like a 1984 type situation, or even like a V for Vendetta sort of thing.
There's a reason that Orwell had 1984 set in Great Britain.
Yeah. Like, look at the similarities between those two and current day UK. It's astounding. And we're going to continue to see the erosion of civil rights under the guise of, well, this is for the best. You don't actually need these. You're not being infringed upon. It's, for safety reasons. It's to keep peace. It's to keep the public order. Things should be better.
They should. But they have to be made better by people, by the citizens.
Exactly.
Well, on to entertainment.
Let's do it.
All right. The Autist Whisperer wants to know, what are our thoughts on the controversy surrounding WWE's The Greatest Royal Rumble being held in Saudi Arabia? The Saudis paid for it. They paid for the event in full. They built a stadium for it. I know that the Saudi prince has been wanting to catch up with the modern world in a lot of ways. And as such, he's wanted to bring more entertainment to Saudi Arabia. And they certainly have the money to buy it. The controversy, to my recollection, surrounding it was basically that it's Saudi Arabia.
Yeah.
The women could not wrestle there. People got in trouble for showing a WWE advertisement that had a female wrestler in it. The Saudi propaganda, in apology to the public, called the women in the advertisement prostitutes. Yeah, and I'm like, holy shit. But then again, it's Saudi Arabia. Like, what else should you expect? Yeah. So, it sucks. It's a terrible thing, but if nothing else, I heard reports that the female wrestlers all got paid like they went and wrestled. So, there's that at least. So, but that's all I can really say about it.
All I want to know is, does this mean the Iron Sheik is going to be in it, and when?
Well,
Oh,
it already happened.
Oh, it already happened. Oh, okay.
And the Sheik
There you go.
was an Iranian, so that wouldn't have gone over that well.
Well, then
Here's what's funny,
it's a
though.
good thing he wasn't there.
Here's what's funny though. They had two Iranian American wrestlers at the show
Oh shit!
come down the ramp waving an Iranian flag.
And they did not get Aloha Snack Guard.
Surprisingly not.
Wow.
I was just thinking to myself, I'm watching this, I'm like, oh god, someone's going to like shoot them with a sniper rifle. The Davari brothers are fucking dead. And surprisingly, they did not die. It was basically Vince McMahon being fucking insane and be like, God damn it, we're gonna do the foreign heel thing even here in Saudi Arabia.
Oh my fucking god.
This is one of Donald Trump's best friends, folks.
The absolute madman.
Yeah, Vince McMahon is insane. Alright, I have nothing else to say on it. Hatman, you got anything?
No. Well, how recent was this?
A couple weeks ago at best.
Oh, it was? Okay. See, I don't usually keep up with that sort of shit. Like last I heard, motherfucking Undertaker and John Cena were going at it. That's
that was a while ago.
Yeah, so that's how far back I am on all this.
Alright.
Late to the party.
Yeah. Swordsman 100 wanted to know thoughts on the Venom / Peter versus Carnage / Thanos fight in the horrible Guardians of the Galaxy cartoon.
What?
Yeah, it's exactly what it sounds like. It's stupid. Carnage takes over Thanos as if Thanos needs Carnage and fights Star-Lord with Venom, I think. And I saw some of it. I'm like, yeah, this is stupid, and I turned it off.
Oh my god, that's like fan fiction levels of stupid.
Yeah, fanfiction.net when invaded by 13-year-olds. Yeah, that's all I can really say about it. Have either of us read the Why the Last Man comic series?
The what?
Why, the Last Man.
No, never heard of it.
It is to read from Wikipedia here, it is a post-apocalyptic science fiction comic book series written by Brian K. Vaughan and Pia Guerra, published by Vertigo beginning in 2002. It's about the only man who survives the apparent simultaneous death of all other male mammals on Earth except his pet monkey.
Weird.
Yeah, I've never read it either. I've heard great things about it. But,
I've never heard of it, so.
Yeah.
Interesting.
Yeah, but imagine living in a world with only women, and you're the only cock on the entire planet.
I was gonna say, and yet the patriarchy would still exist.
It sounds like a dream scenario at first, and then you think that not all the women on Earth are pretty, and you realize it's a nightmare scenario. So yeah. But I will probably read it at some point. Let's see here. Do we think The Incredibles should have had a standalone or should have been a standalone film, or is the sequel we're getting warranted?
It's absolutely warranted. I think Incredibles could have stood alone. But considering that there is a whole lot more to that universe, you could have gone anywhere with it. I mean, you could have done a full-on prequel, you know, the golden age of the supers. And now, you know, where they're going with this seems to be like, you know, the idea of bringing the supers back. And I like that. You know, there's a lot of material that was in there. But yeah, it could have stood on its own. That's the thing with Pixar movies. You know, they can always stand alone. They're that good. They don't need sequels. Looking at you there, Cars.
Yeah,
You
no
didn't
kidding.
need 2 sequels. Also, Toy Story 4. That doesn't need to happen. 3 was perfect. But anyway, no, I think it's warranted, but at the same time, it's just like an extra helping of what we got with The Incredibles. It's like 2 scoops of ice cream as opposed to just one. You don't really need it, but it's nice to have.
I don't really, I don't really understand the necessity of an incredible sequel myself, so I don't even know if I'm gonna go see it.
I'm definitely gonna go see it. Incredibles is one of my favorite Pixar films.
No, mine too.
Um, so I'm definitely down for a sequel. I mean, I've been wondering if they were actually going to do it because they've been talking about it probably since the first one came out. Because I know Brad Bird said for the longest time he wanted to do one, but he just needed to figure out what kind of story they would tell with it.
Mm-hmm.
And I guess they finally figured it out.
I suppose so. All right, last question. Crystal Wing 2149 wants to know: is there any chance of seeing Galactus or Annihilus in the MCU for either Avengers 4 or Fantastic Four? I would think that they're gonna hold off on Galactus once they get the Fox rights. I imagine, you've got Chris Evans is taking a break. Robert Downey Jr. is gonna take a break. Hemsworth has said, him and the director of Ragnarok have talked about doing a 4th Thor film because the character is now really hitting his stride. I didn't like Ragnarok, but it's safe to say it really made the character relevant.
Mm-hmm.
So,
well, that and Infinity War did wonders for Thor too.
Oh yeah, it really deepened or broadened him quite a bit. After, everything that went in Ragnarok, he was able to be funny and complex at the same time, which is good. So, anyway, I would think that after that, the Avengers probably won't. We're probably gonna have another Avengers film for a while, I would think. They will probably focus on more solo heroes and then introduce, like, folding in the X-Men, folding in the Fantastic Four, and then at some point, if there's another big event, it will probably be another Avengers film. They'll bring them all back, and Galactus will probably be the bad guy. So,
I don't know that they would actually do another Avengers movie. I think the whole point of Infinity War and what I presume is going to be called Infinity Gauntlet is to just break up the Avengers. And they said, everything is going to be radically different afterwards. And I think the idea of that is there will be no, real superhero teams like the Avengers. And obviously they're going to want to bring Fantastic Four into that. And maybe that'll be the one team that they put together. And I guess X-Men as well.
Which
kind of roster, changes.
Kills your theory there, dude.
Well, I guess so. But I mean, like Avengers level team.
Yeah,
X-Men,
there's no there's no alliance of the greatest heroes on Earth, basically. The Fantastic Four are a family, basically. The X-Men,
they're all like
the X-Men are mostly students. It's a different type of team.
Yeah, I mean, everyone's off, sort of doing their own thing in the meantime. And if there's a crossover, then there's a crossover. But as far as like big level events, I don't think it would be under the Avengers banner. I think I'm still holding fast to the theory that bringing in everyone is going to be Secret Wars. That will merge the Fox universe and the MCU into one. And if we have another, big event like that, I don't think it'd be under the Avengers banner. It could be under whatever they want it to be. Um, Hell, they could have done that with Infinity War. You know, they could have just dropped Avengers from it and just called it Infinity War, and people would have known. Oh shit! And honestly, I kind of wonder why they didn't do that. I guess for the name recognition, but
well, I was about to say, here's the problem with your theory is right now the Avengers are the hottest thing in comic books. You know, or in comic book teams. They are the most famous now. Which
yeah, but
20, 30 years ago wouldn't have been expected. So what I think will probably end up happening is, again, I think that they're going to take a break from Avengers titles to build up something else. Because and the only reason that I think they are going to do that is very simple. Their two biggest leads want a break. So they've got other stars they can build.
Yeah. Well, they've already got, you know, some of the better known heroes already, like Spider-Man especially. Getting the Spider-Man rights is huge.
Well, I mean, shared rights, but yeah.
Well, yeah, but that's still, he's in the MCU now. I mean, so that brings forth, you know, a whole host of opportunities. Like, you can just do a Sinister Six film like Sony's been wanting to do for ages and ages, and actually fold that into the MCU. I mean, Spider-Man alone has got a huge rogues gallery.
Oh, yeah.
I mean, if you wanted to do, like, more cosmic stuff, yeah, you can do that with the Guardians of the Galaxy. And you can go and have the Celestials and the Eternals and whatnot. And
or you can do that with Thor. Like that.
Yeah, you could do that with Thor also. And bring Beta Ray Bill into it, goddammit.
Which is what that sounds like they're going to do for the fourth film.
They better, if they know what's good for them. But yeah, I still don't think they'll really bring back the Avengers. I mean, if they do have a team, it would have to be a radically different team. Well, especially if Cap's going to die or otherwise go away, and Tony's not going to be a part of it anymore. Like, who are you going to have to lead it then?
Well, that's the thing. Well, no. Here's the reason that I have my theory. There's going to be a point where Robert Downey Jr. and Chris, why am I always forgetting his name? Chris Evans are going to want to come back to it. It's going to happen. I mean, you got to think of the payday they just got. They just were in the biggest movie ever. It's like when people were thinking that Harrison Ford was going to turn down Han Solo. Do you remember what he said in an interview, what the reason he came back was? It was one word.
Money.
Exactly! They'll do it again. I guarantee you they will. Because it's huge money. But
if they kill them, if they kill the characters off,
no, they can always bring them back.
Some convoluted way to.
They found a convoluted way to bring back the Red Skull.
Yeah, well, he didn't even technically die, though. That's the thing.
Well, we thought he did, and then suddenly he didn't.
That's the thing, though. Permadeath. Death is permanent in this universe. I mean, if they wanted to do something like
until it's not. That's the basic rule of comic books. Everybody dies until they don't.
Well, that's the thing, though. Like, what if this is sort of leading up to like a Marvel multiverse sort of thing? Because I mean, it seems like, you know, with the different dimensions and realms and whatnot that they're talking about, and you know, even Doctor Strange is like the 14 million possible outcomes. It's like that's different timelines, that's different universes and whatnot.
Yeah,
I mean, we've already got the Marvel multiverse.
I don't think that we'll probably have anything like that going on. I don't think they're going to do that, because that's always been the biggest problem with comic books in general, that they would probably want to avoid is a multiverse, because it's very confusing. I mean, that's been a long-time editorial thing amongst both major comic companies, is that the bigger you make your universes, the more complex it gets, and the harder it is to follow. And that sometimes can be the problem.
That's why we had the Worlds Collide thing with Marvel. And it goes back to what I've been saying about, Secret Wars being the way to fold in like the Fox universe into the MCU.
Well, I don't even
that
think you
would
have to
still be a
fold it.
separate universe.
I don't think you even have to fold it in as a separate universe. You could probably just write it in.
Maybe.
Think about it this way. Captain Marvel. Here's the thing. Think about it this way. Captain Marvel set in the 90s, right? So are the most recent X-Men films. And we're just now finding out about Carol Danvers. So there's ways around it. It's not like that it has to be done one way. Sometimes Occam's razor, the simplest explanation is oftentimes the best one. But back on the initial question, Galactus is one of those characters that you can't have. That's got to be a big event.
Yeah.
Because that affects the entire planet. Annihilus, on the other hand, was originally a Fantastic Four villain. I would much rather, if you're gonna bring in the Fantastic Four, give Doom his own film. Set him up aside from the Fantastic Four, or
and for God's sake, don't kill him.
Well, no. Here's what I'm saying. Annihilus, Fantastic Four film. That's what brings them together. You could even have energies from the negative zone be the radiation that creates the Fantastic Four, like it was in the Ultimate comics. Because Annihilus was their first villain in Ultimates as well. Well, one of their first major ones. And then on... Good. And then for Doom, you have a Doctor Doom movie come out about 6 months later, with Reed Richards and Susan Storm and Ben Grimm as sort of guest stars as younger people. So you can set up Doctor Doom and you can set up that properly. Because that's been the one major mistake that the old Fantastic Four films made, and then and Fan Four Stick made as well. Do not set up Victor Von Doom alongside the Fantastic Four, because that's not how it happened. When he first attacks the Fantastic Four, he is already the ruler of Latveria. And a lot of people tend to forget that. It's honestly better to just have him be Doom and then be inserted into their lives than it is for him to just come along and be a part of that origin story. It's establish the Fantastic Four first, and then bring Doom in later. Because Doom,
I think it's.
Hold on, I'm not done yet.
Go ahead.
Doom is one of those characters that is a Fantastic Four villain. That's how he started, but he's branched out since then.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, for God's sake, right now in the comics, he's playing Iron Man. So this sort of thing is, you don't want to limit him to one thing, because this is a guy you can keep around for a while and use as a foil on a consistent basis. So, but yeah, with Galactus though, he's got to be the big event. He's got to be the big problem, because that's a classic story, and you could involve so many people so well with it. Because you could also have him tell the story so many different ways. You could have Surfer be his only herald, and him be a problem for people. You could have him have multiple heralds. You bring in Firelord and Terrax and Stardust. There's so many ways you could do it. And what I just hope for is, more than anything, they do it well, especially the Surfer. Because the Surfer is probably one of the most iconic characters that is surprisingly not in the MCU.
Yeah. And if you do Galactus, you kind of have to have the Surfer there.
Oh, absolutely.
I mean, it's you would not be doing either of them justice that way.
God, Surfer done right though, man. That'd be a sight to see.
It would be. What about Kang the Conqueror? If they don't feel like going full on Galactus.
Well, Kang is another one of the many villains they could use, and apparently they could bring back the Skull, the Red Skull. You could do a Red Zone story or something like that. Like there's, and if they brought back Red Skull basically with a hand wave, they could probably do the same thing with Ultron. You know,
Well,
like the
probably, yeah.
possibilities are endless. Like the
I mean, they got AIM set up in there already, although we don't know what kind of presence they have, so they could do MODOK even if they wanted to.
yeah, have MODOK be created from the DNA of Aldrich Killian.
There you go.
You know, there's a ton of villains that they still have not used that would be really cool to see. And then once you fold in the Fox properties, I think there's going to be even more. So, I mean
keep in
they're
mind,
talking about another Hulk movie, so that means we'll probably get the leader.
Well, good God, yeah, they tried setting that up at the end of Incredible Hulk, and obviously no payoff.
Yeah. Damn you, Edward Norton.
Yeah. But, like, keep in mind, too, some of the, like, really bigger bads of Marvel have not been set up in the MCU yet. I mean, think about Norman Osborn, for God's sake.
Mm-hmm.
We have yet to see Norman Osborn. That leaves a whole host of opportunities just in one damn character.
I'm trying to think if there's they barely touched Iron Man's villains. No Mandarin.
Yeah,
Not really.
Well, Mandarin is technically out there somewhere.
Yeah, but for him, like, you have Mandarin, Blizzard, Living Laser, Ezekiel Stain.
Yeah.
God,
I don't know if they do like Fin Fang Foom though.
Nah, probably not.
That'd be a little too crazy.
That'd be funny, but
yeah, funny, but
yeah, they haven't touched on a lot of those. For Doctor Strange, you have Shumagarath. They haven't done. Let me look up his rogues gallery.
Obviously Baron Mordo is still out there.
Yeah, he will probably be the next one. Let me have a look here. Nightmare is another one. Mephisto. Mephisto would be great.
Lord, they do Mephisto.
Blackheart.
God, if they did Mephisto. Yeah.
They kind of hand-waved Ghost Rider in Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D., but you could bring back Johnny Blaze in a Doctor Strange film, and then you could do Blackheart, and that would actually be a really good way to introduce him, would be bring in Blackheart and Mephisto.
I kind of feel like a writer would be more suited for like a TV series though. Like I could see him having a bit of a crossover with Netflix series.
Well, he already did it. He was already in Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D.
I know he was in Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D., but like beyond that, because they sort of Ghost Rider just don't get no justice, man.
Yeah, he really hasn't. But yeah, that's another hero that a lot of people really like that has never really that they haven't really brought into the MCU yet. But yeah, they barely touched Iron Man's villains. The Ghost will be in Ant-Man and the Wasp. Who else is there? Hero-wise that I'm forgetting. Oh, Graviton just showed up in Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. apparently. So he is in the MCU now. Count Nefaria has not. And with Count Nefaria, you can use him to also introduce Wonder Man and Atlas. Because yeah, Simon Wilson or Simon is not in not in the MCU either.
How many heroes do you think they would feasibly be able to get away with introducing into the MCU?
I don't know. That's a good question.
Because you gotta think of like copyrights and stuff too. Because immediately what comes to my mind is Hercules.
That one would be
Would
tougher.
you be able to? Yeah, would you be able to bring him in at all?
I would think it they might have to do a little bit of copyright juggling there, but I mean, the last people to really do anything major with Hercules. Wait, no, there was a film with The Rock.
Mm-hmm.
Fuck it, have The Rock play him.
Well, there you go.
That's one actor I'm surprised hasn't been cast in the MCU.
Well,
You do an Avengers film with The Rock as Hercules, and then your star power increases that much.
well, probably because he's Black Adam.
So
There's not a whole lot of crossover. I think like Lawrence Fishburne
is going to be an Ant-Man and the Wasp.
yeah, as what, Black Goliath?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So, and I guess the only real crossover we've seen from DCEU to MCU.
So far.
Yeah, so far, but I can't imagine like a title character like Black Adam. They would let his actor cross over. There'd have to be something in the contract.
Maybe we'll see. I am not convinced that they really have the leverage to do that right now. The DCEU is a flop.
Yeah, true.
Like, it wouldn't surprise me if they started poaching people to be in Marvel films that are in the DCEU. But leave Ben Affleck over there. That's fine. That's fine with me. All right. Well, we have answered all of the questions, and I need to take off because my alarm is ringing. So let's go ahead and bring this to a close. Any final words, Hatman?
Not today.
I have
Not
none
today.
either. So we'll just say this. My name is Micah Curtis,
I'm Alex Baldwin, also known as the Hat Man.
and we'll see you guys next week. Dave's Vault.
Davis Foltz.